How was the questions? Direct in nature. Explain the forces responsible for the origin and formation of rift valleys, giving suitable example. What is the requirement? Okay. So, what are the forces? Diverging link of the convection cell. Yes, you have to explain that. The forces here, forces are supposed to geomorphic process. Here, rift valley is not that more important a term than geomorphic process. In the geomorphic process, one process has to be explained, that is divergence. Internal forces, then divergence, especially radial movement, the process of faulting, fracturing. This has to be explained. Introduction, you can begin with either the rift valley or geomorphic process, but both these words must be included into it. Especially if you look at rift valley, one of the most important landform produced because of endogenetic process. Endogenic process, especially the radial movement or faulting or tensional forces. So this you are supposed to explain. Explain the forces responsible for the formation of rift valley. If you want to start with geomorphic process, you can start with that. Geomorphic process is very internal and vital for the understanding of geomorphology, where rift valley is formed because of the radial movement, faulting or tensional forces. The beginning should be like that. Then explain a bit of endogenic forces. Very brief. Right? We have two types of movement, orogenic and epirogenic. Continent building and mountain builders. Then obviously vertical movement, which is also called radial movement, go and explain it in detail. Now there are two aspects of it. One, the way plate tectonic has explained, that is explanation of divergent boundary, rising column of magma. Then explain rifting, faulting, subsidence of an area. Then we have local faulting. This will come as an example of mid-oceanic ridge. The local faulting. Example of, let's say, Narmada Tapi. Purely tensional forces. Rhine. Then presently local faulting is visible in East African Rift Valley. This can also be explained with the help of plate tectonic theory, that it is the infant formation or stage of continental rupturing. That is the example, right? The question is what? Explain the forces responsible for the origin and formation of rift valleys, giving suitable examples. Getting? So, rift valley of larger nature, which is already a full blown formation of mid-oceanic ridge, rift valley of local nature. So, these are two different aspects. Getting that point? Any question if you have? No? Explain different types of rock, discuss the basic properties of major rock types with suitable examples from India. Do we need to discuss it? Nina? How to? Beautiful. Anybody who wants to answer him? Akshay is asking how to introduce this topic. Definitely. Look at here, the way we have talked about any topic, if you introduce here in such questions, introduction and conclusion will give you a lot of marks. Otherwise, it will be a simple 4 out of 10 marks if you have written the best answer. Yeah. तुम्हारे पास है इसकी कॉपी प्रज्ञा की अच्छा प्रज्ञा किसके पास है पढ़ो इसका इंट्रोडक्शन पढ़ो sometimes always a storehouse of minerals whether they are ore or not is a different thing. Sorry? Exactly. But when we are talking about minerals, they are aggregate of minerals. That's how we define it. आगे बढ़ो. Direct आ गए. Now anybody else? Look at here. This is one perspective of importance of rock. And you all know at least 3, 4, 5 perspective of rock's importance. This is one, mineral aspects. Now, rocks are a very important determinant of the channel morphology, the level of erosion, the intensity of erosion, the level of soil formation. ये क्या हो गया? ये optional perspective हो गया आपका, जो ज़्यादातर बच्चे नहीं लिखेंगे. Getting my point? Even if somebody has heard that fine, you should start with the importance of the topic, they may not be able to peep into the geomorphological perspective of rock. So you should always start with the rocks are maybe with the layman beginning of aggregate of minerals which play a very important role in determination of ore. Besides, it also play a very important role over the erosional aspects, soil formation, water resources, right, and various other geomorphological significance. बिल्कुल एक लाइन में लिखा जा सकता है. You don't need to go into the details of that. Right. I hope you understand erosional aspects. Right. Even the flood control, you can say that. An area with harder rocks will be less liable to flooding as compared to area with softer rocks. That's why if you see even the big rivers on Peninsular Plateau do not cause flood, especially in the early stage and the middle stage, unless until it reaches in the delta where softer rocks are far more in quantity. If you look at the softer rocks in northern plain, they are very vulnerable for flooding. Look at even the urban areas. Why urban areas are more liable to be flooded is basically because they are anthropogenically made harder rocks, concrete structure. So the vertical seepage is less. So rock determines permeability, porosity. So in that sense, it affects the water resources, right? Vertical seepage, obviously the types of rock determines the soil formation, what kind of soil you will have. That will be determined by the parent material they are from. ये तो basics में हम लोग discuss कर चुके हैं सब चीजें. So when you begin with that, you can start with that, right? Then obviously the conventional way of types of rocks, differentiate between the quality of igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks, sedimentary rocks, and then come to the conclusion. Again in concluding remarks, futuristic. Excessive anthropogenic interference has defied the natural aspects of rocks in the present day technologically efficient humans, which are becoming too dangerous to control and manage. Excessive interference of humans or anthropogenic interference have almost defied the natural recourse of rocks, which at times have become too dangerous to manage. For example, increasing intensity of landslides, flooding, increasing intensity of landslides, flooding, mass wasting, sedimentation in rivers, must be checked to reduce the negative impact. Now this way what you are actually doing, you are making almost a dead topic very dynamic. Getting that point? And remember it, whenever we are talking about introduction and conclusion, it is just one perspective. It's not meant for this question only. Always broaden your horizon and lateral thinking, because this is what a perspective. I'm not giving you answer of this question. You should never be myopic in creating your introduction from the human perspective, from the geomorphological perspective. It can be from different perspective as well, right? Since rocks, the topic is geomorphology, try to find out something, geomorphological significance of rock, besides anthropogenic. Like Rift Valley. Rift Valley has huge geomorphological significance, because geomorphology is scientific study of landforms, and Rift Valley is one of the most conspicuous landforms after the fold mountain, if you see. They are associated with one of the major types of mountain, that is block mountains. They affect the valley water flow on the surface, stream flow as well as vertical seepage, because generally rift valleys are made up of harder rocks. नहीं, इस तरह से हम बात करेंगे उसका. This question, explain the concept of base level with suitable examples. This I have discussed in my video, which is openly available in keynoteis.com. So you can see there as well. Have you seen it before? Before writing this answer? अच्छा देखा था? हाँ? Yes. No, they are crystals.
So, एक depth के बाद marble की rocks की layer आती है, then it disappears, then it again like ये होता है जो mines में होता है, वो कुछ layers में मिलती है.
I have seen that.
So, मैंने वहाँ से relate किया.
नहीं, limestone का जो metamorphosed form है, that is marble. Metamorphosis. Discuss the basic difference in the oceanic crust and continental crust. Again, very direct question, right? इंट्रो सोचो ना फिर तुम लोग, हर बार मुझसे थोड़े पूछोगे, सोचो इसमें क्रस्ट के बारे में, राइट? इट इज अबाउट द क्रस्ट दैट इज टॉप मोस्ट. नहीं, कंक्लूड पहले इंट्रोडक्शन तो सोच लो, कंक्लूजन भी सोच लो. इट इज अबाउट क्रस्ट, राइट? नाउ यू हैव टू डिफरेंशिएट बिटवीन ओशनिक एंड कॉन्टिनेंटल क्रस्ट. सो व्हेन अबाउट क्रस्ट, अगेन द फर्स्ट ऑर्डर लैंडफॉर्म 25 तरह से इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हो. डोंट कन्फाइन, बिल्कुल जैसे अगर सपोज करो कि आप इफ यू आर इंट्रोड्यूसिंग डिफरेंट क्वेश्चंस, यू शुडंट अपीयर मोनोटोनस एज वेल. That's why I'm giving you much broader horizon for this. The continents are first order landform. I hope you remember first order, second order and third order landforms, and of utmost significance not only for geomorphology but human aspects as well. Whatever you do it on a continent, on crustal only. This is the uppermost part of the earth, where with varying thickness, with great significance, the entire geomorphology lies on the crustal features, right? Then you talk about the difference, why there is a difference, and what are the fundamental differences between them. We have already talked about that, like oceanic crust, continental crust, then the lighter material, Sial and Sima, then Moho discontinuity, which varies between in depth also, the thickness of oceanic crust, thickness of continental crust, the lower part of continental crust, which is again having symmetric composition of rocks, but they differ from the oceanic in that what you call thiolites and all, because of greater percentage of magnesium in oceanic crust. Keep on talking about that. Then crust with respect to anthropogenic futuristic in conclusion. एज का डिफरेंस कर सकते हैं, सेडिमेंटेशन का डिफरेंस कर सकते हैं. कॉन्टिनेंटल क्रस्ट पे सेडिमेंटेशन ज़्यादा होता है, सॉइल होता है, वेजिटेशन, लैंडफॉर्म्स. हाँ, सेकेंड ऑर्डर लैंडफॉर्म्स, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. इस पे फोल्ड माउंटेन्स होता है, वहाँ आइलैंड आर्क्स होते हैं. हाँ, सब उसमें तो ज़्यादा डीपर हो जाएगा. फिर ट्रेंचेस की एक्सप्लेन करेंगे जब आप सेकेंड ऑर्डर, द वेरियस सेकेंड ऑर्डर, दे वेरी इन वेरियस सेकेंड ऑर्डर लैंडफॉर्म्स आल्सो. Trenches are mostly found in the oceans, which is absent in the continental areas. कंक्लूजन उसी पर्सपेक्टिव में हम दे देंगे. एंथ्रोपोजेनिक इंटरफेरेंस, too much interference, heavy sedimentation, and obviously the changing landscape because of various aspects like global warming, excessive use of technology, deforestation has definitely affected the areas negatively, which must be.
These are affecting only continental crust.
Oceanic crust को भी, oceanic crust पे rate of sedimentation has increased tremendously. Use of submarines.
What is the impact of that impact on the oceanic crust?
Oceanic crust, excessive sedimentation on oceanic crust has also created some problem, because when you go for sedimentation, the crustal features might not be affected, but crustal effect on the water, the composition, that will be affected. Obviously, you can mention that direct interference on the oceanic crust is almost impossible in the case of anthropogenic interference, but indirect interference are many. For example, we have a lot of plastics and lots of garbages which is being dumped in the oceanic areas. So that ultimately will seep down and sit on the oceanic crust. That may not be directly impacting the crust, but definitely have the possibility to impact the humans, because oceans are supposed to be carbon sink as well. Highlight the difference between the hot spot trails and the volcanic arc.
Hotspot is the same with channel of magma through which it comes from outer core.
Yes. Hot spot trail. Hot spot we hope you understand. पहले हम लोग बात कर चुके हैं. Hot spot trail, what happens when a continent, let's say, is moving in this direction and there is a hot spot here, right? So when the continent has reached here, so then there will be a hot spot formation. Once it has moved, after a good point of time, there will be hot spot. After a point of time, there will be hot spot. After a point of time in this area, when it is moving over this, that is called hot spot trails. नहीं समझ में आया? Deccan Plateau. That's why Deccan Plateau is not a continuous upwelling in entire area. Right, there are hot spot trails which has evolved since that area was very depressed at the time of when magma was coming. So it is filled up. It has filled up the entire area, but they are basically hot spot trails. The reunion hot spot was basically responsible for the formation of Deccan Lava Plateau. How to do introduced? Again, these two are volcanically produced, picturesque, and very important landforms, not only for human habitation, but also an important source of research for the interior of the earth. दिमाग में टकरा रही है ना चीजें, ज़्यादा ऊपर से तो नहीं गुजर रही है. Hot spot trail भी है, volcanic arc भी है. Volcanic arc is an important source of learning of plate tectonics. Hot spot trail is an important source of learning of the magma in the interior of the earth, and that has given a lot of information about the interior of the earth. कुछ समझ में आ रहा है? अब जैसे इस तरह क्वेश्चन में बहुत जबरदस्ती एंथ्रोपोजेनिक घुसाने की जरूरत नहीं है. ठीक है, फ्यूचर में इसको लेके दे मे बी ए सोर्स ऑफ मिनरल्स इन द फ्यूचर. हॉट स्पॉट्स कैन बी यूज्ड फॉर हार्नेसिंग जियोथर्मल एनर्जी. उसके लिए रिसर्च और टेक्नोलॉजिकल एफिशिएंसी बढ़ाने की जरूरत है. ऑन दैट पर्सपेक्टिव वी कैन टॉक अबाउट इन द कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स. Highlight the major effects of rejuvenation on channel morphology. Introductory line. Rejuvenation or channel morphology?
We can write it. It has put up a question mark on the sequential
Orderly evolution of landforms. That is rejuvenation. Highlight the major effects of rejuvenation on channel morphology. The channel morphology is very dynamic, integral part of geomorphology, and understanding can help the effect of rivers, not only in terms of water resources, but also negative effect like floodings. If we understand channel morphology properly, we can definitely, we have understood flooding and the process, and we have been able to reduce the negative impact of the floods. And then come to channel morphology is very dynamic, where it is very vividly affected by rejuvenation, which means the increase in erosive power of rivers. Rejuvenation means something like that. And can go on. What are the landforms? Sorry? Valley in valley. Huh?
What about in the
Neck point. Neck point formation, incised meandering. Gorge is very deep gorge, eye-shaped valley. Incised meandering. Then you have regraded profile. Huh? River terrace or structural benches? River terrace formation. Benches is because of? Beautiful, especially in horizontal strata. Good. Regradation. Whole profile, regraded profile.
Sir, do we have to explain static isostatic in studying this?
नहीं, effects of direct है ना, effects of rejuvenation on channel morphology. So if you are going details about, writing details about rejuvenation will not be a great idea. Direct come to effects of rejuvenation. Remember one thing, that you should answer the question, not without displaying your information or unnecessary putting that कि मैं बहुत जानता हूँ sir, देखो मैंने कितना पढ़ा है. Instead of that, I am just answering you. That's one of the most important aspect, what you call disciplined. You are showing yourself that you are very disciplined, which is a very important trait of an administrator. Yes, meandering of rivers is not only a phenomena associated with the mature stage of a river, but also with the young stage. Illustrate with examples.
Basically, we have to talk about depositional, meandering, and erosional.
Yes. Illustrate means you have to figure it out. You have to give diagrams. How to? So you will have to explain depositional meandering because of deposition. Then you will have to talk about oxbow lakes, braided stream, then formation of island, and then meandering. Right. Initially, the braided stream will be formed because of several islands. Then they'll join together, right? And then once the island is formed, there will be meandering. Then effect of meandering in that area, flooding. Give example of Kosi, one of the most notorious river in India for meandering and meandering associated flood. The 2008 flood in Bihar was one of the worst in the post-independent India. Sorry? Mature stage. Braided pattern will be in mature stage only. Young stage में braided कहाँ होगा? Braided pattern is when a single stream is channelized into different stream. Right. When the river is very young, youthful stage, its erosive power is much higher than the load present in it. Getting that? So, if anything obstruction comes into way, it will create its own path rather than deposition. Braided stream is formed because of the deposition of or making of islands. Getting my point? So that way it will be a symptom of mature stage. Braided stream initial, then formation of a single island which will block the river passage, then it will turn. That's what we call meandering. In the case of erosional floodplain, meandering of rivers is not only phenomena should mature, but also with the young stage. Then young stage, meandering, differential erosion, concave, convex, interlocking spurs, and then concave part will be eroded further and further, and then a sinuous stream will be ultimately start meandering. Inward erosion, leaving behind the gentler slope and making the river cliff. Hope you guys remember that. Cross profile of a river is indicative of the stages of its development. Discuss. It demands a different way of putting up information. Cross profile of a river is indicating of the stages of its development is different question. Different stages of river development has different cross profile is a different question. Though the content may be same, the presentation style will be exactly opposite. Right? What do you mean by cross profile? You can start with dynamism of cross profile. You can talk about the importance of learning of cross profile. Again, you can talk about, and then you can talk about cross profile and stages of its development. Right? Different types of cross profile. You will have to begin with that, and then you have to talk about different stages of the river development. A cross profile, V-shaped, I-shaped, right, at the edge, youthful stage, indicates youthful stage. Why? Explain it. A cross profile with broader valleys, lateral erosion, where the position takes place and the cross profile is much broader, with relatively gentler slope outward. In the youthful stage, there will be vertical steep slopes. Talk about the rate of mass wasting a little bit and all. Then old stage, purely flattened, with the river doesn't have any erosional capacity, so cross profile will be this, which indicates old stage. Then here the concluding remarks talks about cross profile in the simplest form is indicative of stages, but however it may change because of rejuvenation, right? And at times even in the older stages, because of rejuvenation, the river may reflect youthful characteristics. Here you don't need to go, because it is purely geomorphological question. You don't need to put anthropogenic perspective here. However, if you want to give that, you can talk about the cross profile has been accelerated. The rate of cross profiling of rivers has been accelerated because of excessive interference of human. Through deforestation, damming the river, increasing the landslides and all, through settlements and infrastructural activities. Explain and illustrate the formation of erosional floodplain in the young stage of a river. Cross profile. That's what I talked about. Cross profile is exact definition you can begin with. Definition you want is the bank to bank. Yes, bank to bank area of a river is cross profile. क्रॉस प्रोफाइल का इम्पोर्टेंस बता सकते हो. लर्निंग स्टडिंग क्रॉस प्रोफाइल गिव्स अस an important area not only about the geomorphological aspects of a river but also its floods and other depositional features. Explain and illustrate the formation of erosional floodplain in the young stage of a river. Sinuosity, meandering, concave, convex, then rate of differential erosion, then interlocking spurs, slip of slope, river cliff, and removal of all these features. You will have erosional floodplain. Yes. No, once it is floodplain, they are relatively less meandering. Initially it will meander, and all the obstacles in the meandering area will be removed. Only then the floodplain will be formed. But that may not necessarily be meandering. They will be more sinuous. Once the floodplain is formed, they remove the normal meandering has been washed out. So now the river is flowing almost in a straight line. But that straight may not be perfectly straight. That depends upon the geology, rock structure of the area, slope aspect. I hope we are clear about it. We don't need to talk about it further. Distinguish between antecedent and superimposed drainage with suitable examples from India. We haven't discussed. Antecedent I have. तो उतना ही काफी है. क्या सोचा तुमने?
If river superimposes any earlier stage or earlier channel, is that kind of?
No, these are example of streams are classified into two groups. One is sequent, one is insequent, right? These two are examples of insequent streams which do not follow the visible geological structure of the area, where water divides or summits are eroded to carve out its own path. Right? What is an antecedent river? Both are insequent. How they are different? It's a matter of cutting across the, both are cutting across the water divide, the geological structure of the area.
So one maintains
Hmm? In opposite direction. Older than the geological structure. And in the superimposed, the structures are older than the river. The superimposed antecedent, I hope we can easily explain, right? With how the rivers are older than that V-shaped valley, I-shaped valley. On superimposed is basically, if you look at, this is the normal course of a river, right? So what happens initially, if you have, let's say, suppose this is the geological structure of the area, right? So in this case, there are the rocks which may be harder. Once the upper part is removed, the river is flowing here, right? Now, if you look at the general slope, it will be like this. The slope of this area, once it is removed, the upper part is removed, which will be generally softer rocks. And this will be harder rocks. So when the river is flowing for a good long geological period, so what will happen? They will remove the softer upper part. And after a point of time, when this is visible, so initially it will appear the slope is like this, but the river will be flowing against the slope. जैसे इसको हम ले सकते हैं इस तरह से. Let's say suppose this is the geological slope of the area, right? Let's take like this. This is the geological slope of the area, and this area doesn't have a vacuum. This slope, nowhere it is like this. Let's say suppose it is like this, and it is in this direction. So initially when the river is flowing, this entire area is of softer rocks, right? When the river is flowing, that is flowing gently through the normal structure that it should be. After a point of time, when it has carved out, when it has created a valley up till here, it is still maintaining its slope, right? So once it has reached here, it may be at a higher level here, right? So after it has reached here, it will start cutting the harder rocks. Getting that point? After a point of time, when this is reaching gradually lower, it has removed. Now this softer rock has been removed. The slope is like this, and river is flowing here. So it will appear as if river is flowing against the geological slope of the area. That's what superimposed. River has superimposed itself in that area.
So the rock is removed, the softer rock is removed, then why the river is showing that it is as it is coming from a higher area?
So this will still be going from higher area. But the time it took to remove this entire area, look at here, if the slope is like this, so when it has reached here, it is still here. Slope, it is still here. Now it has started cutting this, the next rock, next layer of rock. So it has reached here, so it will still be here. Now it has reached here in this direction. It is still here. So after a point of time, when it is completely removed, it is here. The starting point is here, and the end point in this area may be here. So if you look at the geological slope of the area like this, and the river is flowing in this direction. This is superimposed river. Huh? Sorry? Valleys will be in accordance with the movement of the slope only. The only factor is that when the upper area is removed, it may be harder and softer alternatively. It has to be, in fact. When the upper part is removed, the lower part, which is exposed right now, if we see right now a river flowing in this direction, like starting from here and ending here, or if you look at this, a river is starting from here and ending here, present slope. That means this area must have the higher upper level earlier, where the river was flowing like this, and it has gradually cut down, has reached here, where the upper part has been removed. So that is what we call superimposed river. Generally, it will be characteristics of the area where the area is very, very old. This Son River is a very good example of that superimposed, and good number of rivers in the Amarkantak Plateau area. Small streams in the Amarkantak Plateau areas are all the older areas. Chota Nagpur Plateau has good number of streams which are superimposed in nature. Swanrekha, Brakar in some area is also an example of superimposed. Godavari nahi hai. Godavari flows through Rift Valley. Godavari is produced because of rifting. Though Swanrekha and also part of that, but Swanrekha in the middle course is example of superimposed in the upper Amarkantak, near Amarkantak Plateau, Jamshedpur.
So that because समझ में आ गया how to write this.
Superimposed rivers are the rivers which are insequent in nature, right? And then explain it. The normal course of the visible superimposed rivers indicates the direction of flow exactly in the opposite direction of the slope of the area, present area. Then why it is so? You have to show that it indicates the fact, because river cannot move against the gravity, as simple as that. Right? So that means this area must be having a cover up, other strata or layer above it in the past, where the direction of the present day slope must have been in accordance with the direction of the older areas. And the river keeps on cutting downward, and after the entire upper surface is removed, river maintains its direction in the older course. And that's how it is called it has superimposed itself over the structure rather than being antecedent. Antecedent is always associated with a uplifting area, an area where the active area, where superimposed is always associated with inactive area. Active area means where convergence is taking place. That will produce antecedents, where the rivers are definitely older than the area which is making it antecedent in nature. Hope we are getting that. Slope plays a very important role not only in the evolution of landforms but also over a variety of human activities discussed. Again, a very simple, straightforward question. The mystery of the fold mountain origin is very scientifically resolved by the theory of plate tectonics. कर सकते हैं? Discuss the role of structure as a factor in the development of landforms with suitable examples. We have already talked about macro structure, micro structure, the division basically concept of. Here you will have to talk about different types of rocks, igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks, sedimentary rocks. Then in sedimentary rocks, limestone and all. The limestone area will have a different types of landforms. The other areas will have different types of landforms. Describe seafloor spreading and explain how it was an important piece of evidence in support of plate tectonics. Easy? Explain weathering and mass wasting and describe their geomorphic significance. Second part.
They describe how the landscape is designed actually.
Valley widening, we can talk about I shift to V-shape valley in the
Beautiful.
form
Good.
valley evolution.
Geomorphic significance. जब भी word geomorphy आएगा, what do you mean by that? Landform evolution, as simple as that. Weathering and mass wasting, summit removal, height decrease, then widening of valleys, then even the islands formed in the rivers because of higher amount of deposition, higher rate of weathering and mass wasting, then landslides, the significance of landslides. Yes, but geomorphic significance means landslides, the effect of landslide, geomorphic significance of landslides. Landslide? Geomorphic significance. Discuss the geomorphic significance of landslides. So landslide is nothing but mass wasting. Right? Weathering ka bhi hum geomorphic significance. Landslides, wherever the landslide is taking place, that area will produce decreasing height, and wherever they are depositing, that area will produce increasing height. Their talus cones, the Bhabbar region are formed in Indian case. That is because of landslides, mass wasting. So you'll have to talk about cone in cone, the fan-shaped formation, alluvial fans, the formation of the pebbles, cobbles, boulders, which are deposited generally in the foothills of the mountain. Sorry? Sorry? Colluvium. इसी का alluvium का different form है. पेपर लेंदी है.